let's do this. Before I start, I want you all to know that I'm not depressed or I don't have any mental or physical illnesses. I am simply frustrated and I cannot stay silent any further. Now, before I say anything else, I want you to sit with one number. Just one. 21. 21. 21 students who took their own lives because of paper leaks. 21 futures that ended not because they failed, but because the system that supported them, that was supposed to support them and test them, failed them first. And yet, when students go out on the streets to ask a simple question, why did our exam leak? Who is responsible? What do they get in return? Batons, bulldozers, gaslighting, and a media trial that brands them as anti nationals before even a single FIR is filed. I want to talk today about a document that most of us have heard of, but very few of us have actually read. Article 19 of the Constitution of India. Because what happened in Delhi was not just a law and order issue, it was a constitutional violation that is committed in broad daylight against the very people the Constitution was written to protect. Let's list a few. Yeah? Start with Article 19(1)(a). Gives every citizen the freedom of speech and expression. When a student is labeled an urban Naxal for asking a question, when a journalist is called a Pakistani agent for reporting just a fact, when a scientist is branded a foreign agent for just stating the data that they were given. That is not law enforcement, guys. That is the state punishing its citizens for the crime of speaking. Let's go to number 2, Article 19(1)(b). It gives us the right to peacefully assemble without arms, which is what those students were doing. They were not carrying weapons, they were carrying placards, questions, and agony and grief. They were met with a force that had no restraint and had zero accountability. Now, let's go to the next one. 19(1)(c) gives us the freedom to form associations, unions, to organize, to stand together. Yet today, the moment ordinary citizens organize around any grievance, they are treated as a threat to the state rather than the state's own conscience. Article 19(d) and (e) protect our freedom to move, to reside anywhere in this country. You can tell that to the families whose homes are bulldozed overnight without due process, without a hearing, on the mere suspicion of who their son or daughter stood beside in a fucking protest. Okay. Article 19(1)(g), the freedom to practice any profession. Oh god, this is so funny. The doctors, just ask them, the doctors, the lawyers, the civil servants who have chosen to speak up. Ask them how many of them have been quietly told in many, many words that their career will suffer for it. Every one of these freedoms carries what the Constitution calls, or what the Constitution calls, favorable, reasonable restrictions. Nobody's arguing otherwise, of course, but there is a difference between reasonable restriction and an unreasonable weapon. When the exception becomes the rule, not if, when every dissenting voice is treated as a threat to national security, the restriction is no longer reasonable anymore. It has become the erosion of that right itself. Of course, internal security is citizens raising their voice within the bounds of the Constitution, of course, and the hope is that the Constitution will still protect them. The day that trust breaks, You don't need an external enemy. The country begins to hollow out from within itself. Okay, so here's what I'm asking of you. Not anger for the sake of anger. Read Article 19, yeah? Know it the way you know your own name, because a right you don't know you have is a right that can be quietly taken away from you. All it takes is one FIR, one bulldozer, one baton, one label at a time. If you cannot stand on the front line yourself, at least do not stand in the way of those who do. Because the freedom we are watching erode today were never meant only for the students of Delhi. They were written for each and every one of us. Stay safe, guys. Peace.